She was very excited. She wanted a little girl so bad because she had a little boy. And at 21 weeks, she went to go get the ultrasound to find out the sex of the baby. So she was in Victoria, went to a Victoria doctor who we love and, treasured. And he told her that there was something off with this baby. He was thinking that there was something wrong with the heart. And it appeared as though, based on the ultrasound, that it was missing a kidney or something of that line.
Welcome. You're listening to the radio podcast of Voices of a Woman from Creative Encouragement Ministries. This program focuses on giving women a voice to share their stories and how the Lord brought them through challenging situations to live above their circumstances. I hope that this conversation will encourage you and offer you hope in your own journey. Hi, I'm Leanna Wilson, your host, and you're listening to Voices of a Woman. My guest today is married. She's 53 years old with one daughter who's aged 34. She has two beautiful grandchildren from her daughter and two beautiful grandchildren from her stepson and his wife. She's a native of Victoria, Texas. She is my longest childhood friend when we met on the first day of kindergarten and knows almost everything there is to know about me. And I want you to welcome my friend, my longest childhood friend, Deidera Rogers.
Hello.
Hey.
Thanks for having me. This is such an honor to be here with you.
Well, my goodness, I am very excited for you to be with me here today.
Well, thank you.
It's definitely an honor, and thanks for saying, yes, Leanna, I'll do it. I'll come and I'll be interviewed. And we've known each other most of our lives.
Almost, for the exception of maybe 5 years.
Yes, exactly. I remember being in kindergarten class, looking, I was sitting in the very back and you were in the very front. And I looked at you and I said, I want her to be my best friend. And that afternoon, we rode the bus together. We were bus partners, and we had to hold hands going to the bus. And we rode the bus together every day from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade.
Yes.
And we were friends all the way from elementary to middle school. And then from there, we had to go to different high schools.
Yes, in different cities.
In different cities,
and
yes.
I was shattered.
Well, I started my freshman year in Victoria, and then between my freshman and sophomore year, I had to move to the Corpus Christi area.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I know. I was crushed too, because Victoria was my whole life. That's all I knew. And so we both grew up in Victoria, right, out by Coletta Creek area, and you lived in one neighborhood, well, a few neighborhoods down from mine, and we just played long and hard and enjoyed growing up in the country.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And before we start this interview, I do want to tell this quick story because I always remember this in my mind. When we were kids, I can't remember if we were 7 or 8 years old.
In there, yes.
Yeah, around in that time.
Yeah.
We were in a spare bedroom that y'all had in your house, and we were pretending we had that old tape cassette
recorder.
Yes. Was it that oblong one, or the, what do you call it, the
with the little
rectangulars?
orange record button that you hit with the play button.
Yes, and we would sit and pretend we were doing a radio show, right? And we were doing character voices and being silly. And I remember you saying something to me. You said, Leanna, you're going to do this someday. And I thought, oh, as a kid, you don't think much about it.
Right.
And then those words have come back into my mind.
Stayed with you all these years.
All these years. And I think about that often. The very fond memories.
Yes.
And so us doing that and being kids and having fun. I'm sure that tape cassette is around somewhere.
It never got thrown away.
Just
don't know where it's at.
Is that blackmail? Oh, my goodness. Deidera, you have seen God's faithfulness in your life through a lot of great times and some very painful times. And I love to do this with each of my guests. I want to go back. We know you were raised in Victoria. What was going on? Give us a glimpse of your childhood.
I had a great childhood. My parents, they stayed married. We lived in the same house. They actually had a house built the year I was born. So I was in that same house the entire time I was growing up. We lived in a little suburb my mom and dad, they were Lutheran. My mom was actually Catholic and then later converted to Lutheran. And we went to a Lutheran church there in Victoria. We didn't go every weekend or every Sunday like we should have.
Right.
But yes, I was raised Lutheran. And but like I said, had a really great childhood.
So would you say that you were raised in a Bible-believing home? Or
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And your parents being that foundation for you. And I know that y'all had a small ranch in Cuero area.
Right. We had about 110 acres that we'd go to every weekend. That was my dad's paradise. We went out there and we had cattle out there and just to kind of get away. And, we do fires at the fire pit. And we really enjoyed going out there. And the older I got, the more I enjoyed it.
Well, I think it's just kind of a solace, right? You get away from this busyness of life and kind of get into the country. I always enjoyed it growing up, being that I could go outside and play. I mean, in the time, in the era that we were raised in, that, we would leave home, like in the summertime, when the sun rose, we'd eat breakfast and we were gone all day long till the evening. And we'd ride our bikes with our friends and we were at the creek and out playing. We were always doing something outdoors.
Yes.
And I remember that having extreme great memories about that. As you were growing up, I know that, we were friends through elementary and junior high. And then we just sort of, not that we departed ways, just because you went to one school, my dad got remarried and we had to go to another school in Victoria. And so what was kind of going on when you went into high school? What was going through your mind, or what were you going through?
Well, I don't really ever remember having any issues transitioning from junior high to high school. In fact, junior high was probably more of a traumatic time frame in my day than high school. High school was
I remember the bullies,
yes,
right?
The bullies. Oh, yes, I can still remember them to this day.
Me too. I think we remember them together.
Yes, I know. I think we had the same bullies.
Yes. Yes.
So transitioning to high school was a blessing. It kind of broke that and got me out of that. And I played tennis all 4 years. I really enjoyed that. I had a really, really, really good high school experience,
So I know toward the end of high school, I remember you calling me and you were like, okay, look, I'm going to have a baby.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh my, you become an adult really quick.
You certainly do.
So how was that for you?
It was, I was pregnant my whole senior year. I graduated on June 1st and had her on June 8th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the whole time I was a senior, yes, I was expecting my daughter. And in the beginning, I was terrified.
Sure.
Absolutely terrified. I didn't know what school was going to be like. I was so scared to tell the teachers, and I didn't know how people would look at me or how they would treat me. Fortunately, though, it wasn't bad. Everybody was very supportive and very encouraging. All of my friends just stepped up and they were there for me. It was wonderful. It was really, really good. But I made it all through my senior year and was dead set and determined to, not let anybody tell me that this is going to ruin my life. And I didn't. And so I graduated, like I said. It was great. So,
did you have the support of your parents? How was that, telling your mom and dad?
That was a tough one.
I'm sure it was.
My dad was a lot harder, and I know that was a disappointing time in his life, and I let him down. Mom was very encouraging. When Dad was a little rough around the edges, Mom came and picked up all the pieces, and she took me in her arms and held me really tight and told me that everything was going to be okay, and it was. I mean, Dad just needed some time to
accept that. That's like, this is my baby girl, because you're the youngest, right? You have two much older brothers.
That's right, yes.
And I'm sure that was hard.
And my youngest brother and I are 13 years apart.
Oh, Okay.
And so my oldest brother and I are 15 years apart.
Okay.
So when you say baby, it was like I was an only child almost.
Right.
Right. So, and it was wild because before I told my mom and dad, I consulted with my oldest brother, and he laid it out to me. He goes, it was like he read it on my face before I haven't even had a chance to say one word. He already knew. He looked at me and knew what was wrong. And he told me, he goes, you're pregnant, aren't you? And I was like, yes. And he goes, okay, this is how it's going to be. Dad's not going to do so hot, and he's not going to do well with this. He goes, but Mom's going to be your comforter. Yes, my rock. And I mean, he was spot on. So I really leaned on him a lot, and that he was very helpful, through that time. Like I said, Mom was always there for me as well.
So were you real close? Have you've continued to stay close with your brothers?
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah. Oh yes, still today. When I had Kayla, Dad came along, and and he was there then, and then I couldn't get rid of him.
He's like, that's
he
my
was
grandbaby.
A sticker.
That's my grandbaby.
And oh yes, and them two were the best of friends, my dad and my daughter, and it was just a beautiful thing watching.
So you grew up really fast at that moment.
Oh yes,
because you went from graduating high school to becoming a mother within a few days.
Yes.
I mean, what was that like? I mean, you're a really young adult, but now you're like, I'm really an adult now.
I mean, it was tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it was really, really hard because it's not something that you're used to. And as a young kid or a young adult, you're just not prepared for that.
Sure.
But, you just do what you have to do. There's no book that comes along. You just kind of take it day by day. And I was married. I got married. We just kind of figured it out as we went along. It was an experience.
School of Hard Knocks. School
Yes.
of Hard Knocks says.
I was very grateful that when I did have her, I was out of school. I had graduated, and so I had school behind me, so that was good. Now, kids are expensive, babies, infants, oh my. So I was working 2 jobs. My husband was working, and just to simply try to make ends meet, because it's really difficult to get on top when you've got a baby. So, but we pushed through, and I thank God for her every day. She is such a blessing to me. She's 34 years old now.
Wow, that's so awesome.
And she's got 2 beautiful babies of her own. She was just definitely a blessing.
Yeah, yeah. And that time in your life, so much is changing anyways. I mean, you just graduated high school, like, what do I do now? But then you are instant, I'm a parent now.
Yeah.
And, I'm responsible for this beautiful life that God has given me. I would imagine there's so much running through your mind. And I remember when you told me you're going to have a baby, and I had already really sold out to the Lord. And I said, I'm going to pray for you. And you thought I was pretty radical, but I was very radical because I had an encounter with Jesus. And I just knew this through the years, faithful to pray for you and pray for what you were doing. And I knew I just couldn't even imagine myself being that age and having that responsibility. I was just, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, and let alone you have all of a sudden a really big responsibility at that time. And so do you look back at yourself and go, how did I do that?
Yes, all the time. Or going, if I could do things over, I would do it differently. Absolutely.
Or you look back
knowing
and
what
go,
I know now.
Wow, she's an amazing young woman. I mean, she really is. She's graduated as a nurse
strong.
and
very strong,
responsible, and you did a good job, Mama.
Thank you.
And I've talked to other moms that were teen mothers at that time, and they're like, you just stick it out.
Yes.
And their kids are amazing. It's because I think they're raising themselves as well as raising their children. So those children are watching their parents grow up.
Yes, and they watch more than you realize.
Yeah, and they can learn from your mistakes as well, and they can see where that is where you went wrong or what you did right, and knowing and keeping yourself humble, being humble to the point of saying, yeah, I was wrong in this, or yeah, I did this right, or I did this wrong, and being repentant toward your children. I think that's so important.
Yes.
And so I kind of want to go fast forward here a little bit. So what was going on in your life when you decided, I really need God in the center of my life?
I walked through life day by day, not really knowing any different. But when I started working for hospice, I wasn't a nurse or anything. I did marketing. But when I got involved in that organization, really changed my life. There were so many stories, so many things that I witnessed. Stories that I heard really changed my life. I'll never forget it. I was listening to a Christian radio station while I was at work, and Luke, the sky angel, told his story, and I just busted into tears. That was it. That was it for me.
I remember you calling me, telling me, I've got to tell you this story.
Yes.
And my heart just exploded because
Yes.
I know I had prayed for you. Lord, let her encounter you. Let her encounter your love the way I did. And do you want to share that story really briefly?
Absolutely.
About?
It was about a young boy, probably 7, 8 years old. They had a dairy farm, or they had cattle, and one of the cows had a baby calf, and there was something wrong with the babies, or something wrong with the calf. Well, to make a long story short, his dad made him go out to end the calf's life because it wasn't going to survive, and he didn't want to. And so he prayed about it, and then God said, "It's okay, Logan. I had to take my son as well." Oh. And it was just such a beautiful story, and I just busted into tears. It hit me so hard, and it's such a neat thing to say, because how so many people can find things in radio stations like that. It is just, it's beautiful. I love it.
Christian radio is such a beautiful tool. I remember when I got saved, I really encountered the Lord. I was a teenager, and I was seeking solace in music and anything that I felt that could take away my pain. And when I encountered the Lord, immediately, it was like from one day to the next, I started looking for Christian radio. There has to be a Christian radio. There has to be something to encourage me, as I struggled with discouragement like my whole life. And then when I found KCTA, which is the station that this airs on, they were playing Christian music, and I would get my tape recorder and I would record the music so I could listen to it whenever it wasn't on the air, or whenever they weren't playing music. I had to hear that to feed my heart, to feed my soul. And Christian radio is it's so awesome how God is using that to touch people all at the same time. And so what a beautiful story. And I remember that day you called me, you were sobbing.
Yes.
You were all over the place. I was trying to figure out what was going on. And you're like, I heard this story. And you went right into this story, and you were just crying, and you were your heart was exploding for the Lord. God was just touching you at that moment. And it touched me. I was weeping because I said, oh God, I prayed for my friend to encounter you. And she did. And I was so encouraged with that. And were you struggling with anything at that point in your life when that was going on?
I don't remember. I don't believe I was.
It was just that point.
It was just, yes.
God was saying.
It was there, and he placed that story right where he knew. He just knew. He knew that that's what I needed to hear.
Well, I think it's so cool that God used that. God knows what we're relatable to, and that your family also had cattle as well. And you knew that. You knew the heartbreak of that. I mean,
oh, yes. I'm very passionate when it comes to animals. And anyway, and so, And so when that little boy had to take the life of that little baby calf, and, when I heard the little boy talking in that small little boy's voice, I turned the radio up, and that's when he was saying he was talking to God, and God came back and said, Logan, I had to take my son too. Oh man, that hit, and it stuck, and I will never forget that. That was such a beautiful story, and that sweet boy had to do what he had to do.
For that moment.
At that moment.
Okay, so Deidera, we're going to fast forward now from, you really God touching your heart to, we all have struggles. We all go through different things and circumstances. And when I asked you, hey, I want to interview you, you said, I know exactly what I want to share. And I want to share this, and I want to preface this story that we all go through loss at some point in our life, whether it's a loved one, a friend, a marriage, a relationship. There is loss, there's grieving in this process. And this story is so beautiful. And you have said, I've wanted to share this for a long time, not just with friends and family, but with people that maybe are really hurting and maybe going through loss. We talked a lot on the phone. You've shared this story with me multiple times, and I love hearing it every time I just sit and I listen, because I know that we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And every time it's shared, your story, my story is shared, it's touching people's lives.
Yeah.
Just like you heard this little boy and his story about this calf. You're sharing that story again to bring healing. And maybe you won't even know, we won't know, I don't think, the lives that we touch until we get to be with the Lord. And this is where I really want you, I know this story's been on your heart. And I know that you have other stories as well. We all do. But this one particular is so dear and near to you.
Yes.
God was so incredibly close during this time of your life. So kind of let's go back. I really want to hear this. And we talked last night on the phone, and you said, I can go back as far as you want me to go back.
I can go back a long way,
So let's go back. We've got time. So let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. So my daughter, she was married. She had a little boy because she had her baby quite young as well. So her little boy was 2 years old, and her husband was in the military. They got stationed in Germany. And so it was just like, oh my goodness, they took my world. Took my baby, my grandbaby, and moved to Germany. And that was quite tough. I'll never forget Kayla calling me and telling me, she said, Mom, guess what? And I said, thinking she got her a new puppy. And she goes, I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh no. In my mind, I was thinking, oh no, here she is in Germany. And she's just conceived a baby. And so we talked for a while, and I was excited for her, of course. And because Kip, her husband, was sent off to Afghanistan. So she's now in Germany with foreign doctors, and she's got friends, of course, but she's there. And I talked her into coming back home. She was very excited. She wanted a little girl so bad because she had a little boy. And at 21 weeks, she went to go get the ultrasound to find out the sex of the baby. So she was in Victoria, went to a Victoria doctor who we love and, treasured. And he told her that there was something off with this baby. He was thinking that there was something wrong with the heart. And it appeared as though, based on the ultrasound, that it was missing a kidney or something of that line. So he sent her to Houston for further evaluation. And I was working then, and at about later in the evening, she called me just screaming. I could not understand a word that poor child was saying, but all I could get out of her was her baby was dying. So they said that what was going on was there was a blockage in the fourth vertebrae just beneath her head that was not allowing the fluid to drain like into the abdomen like it's supposed to. So basically it was just sitting in her head and not being able to go down. So, multiple doctor visits in Houston and in Victoria. We were just absolutely praying for nothing but a miracle. There were doctors telling Kayla that she needed to end the pregnancy because it was not going to be a good ending anyway. So, they said that if this baby does survive, it's going to be very special needs and all these things. And Kayla, with her faith as well, was very determined not to end the pregnancy. She goes, I'm going to let God be the judge of that.
Yeah, amen.
And
amen.
So she chose to carry the baby full term. God love her.
Wow.
And lots of strength right there. She had lots of emotions, ups and downs. There was one time we were coming back from Houston. She went with me to go pick up a puppy. I had a puppy flown in.
Speaking of the puppy.
And she started crying on the way back and, just saying, just out of the blue, just started crying. And she goes, I don't want my baby to die. I don't want my baby to die. And I said, Kayla, I said, how you should probably start looking at it is feeling blessed that you're able to carry God's angels or God's angel. I said, not everybody is chosen to carry his angel, and you have been chosen for that. And it stopped her. And she goes, you're right, Mom. You're right.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just so beautiful. And so that was helpful and kind of healing for her. And so we continued on. She called me up one day, and she was about 34 weeks, 32 weeks. She thought she was in labor. So I dropped everything, picked her up. We went to Houston as fast as possible. The doctor did confirm the fact that she was in labor. She was 32 weeks. And the baby's head was measuring 64 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, we're pregnant for only 40 weeks.
Yeah.
So this was measuring as a toddler almost.
Right.
Okay.
And so the poor baby, she did have a very large head because the water just kept piling up, therefore expanding the head. So the doctor said that there is absolutely nothing we could do to save the baby's life. It was the worst case of this type of disease that he had ever seen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And so he said instead of having the baby there in Houston, he wanted her to come home to Victoria so she could be around family. Kip is still in Afghanistan.
So that her husband was still in Afghanistan.
Right.
Okay.
And so anyways, I stepped up to be the coach as the military worked in getting him to come back home. So we did. We followed what the doctors in Houston told us to do. We came home, and that was on a Friday. That Monday, they scheduled her for an emergency C-section. The doctor told me, he says, Deidera, he goes, this is what we're going to do. He said, we're going to start by cutting her from the belly button all the way down. And we are going to try to deliver the baby that way. And he said, if we are unsuccessful, we are going to have to poke the baby in the back of the head to release the fluid, which would cause instant immortality. Yeah, my stomach just started turning. And so after that, he said, if we're still unsuccessful, then we're going to have to cut the uterus even higher, at which point your daughter could possibly bleed out. And I turned white as a ghost. I was just, oh no.
You had 3 scenarios and none of them were good.
Yes, right, exactly. I'm hoping for the first. I went in with her. They put the sheet over, so I was standing behind the sheet with Kayla holding her hand. And I remember her saying, they're inside, Mom. Yeah, they're in me. I remember the doctor saying she's out. It was just that fast. I just felt like this big brick had just been lifted off of my shoulders. And so no crying from the baby. The doctors told us that this baby was going to be stillborn, so that's kind of what we were prepared for. So I asked Kayla, I said, would you like me to go, see her? And Kayla said yes. So I walked around and the nurses were working on her. She wasn't breathing and she was very dark, black. Anyway, all of a sudden she just let out this little wail. They got her heart beating and she started breathing while I was there. Wow. And it was the most beautiful sound. And so I walked back and I said, she's alive. Kayla started crying. So anyway, the doctors were like, wow, she took us by surprise.
Like that was a miracle.
That was a miracle right
there.
Yes.
First of all, they got her out miraculously without any damage to Kayla.
Right.
She was basically dead. And then she starts crying.
Yes.
You have been listening to the radio podcast of Voices of a Woman from Creative Encouragement Ministries. My guest today was Deidera Rogers, and she shared her raw and inspiring journey from growing up in Victoria, Texas, to navigating an unexpected pregnancy during her senior year of high school. She opens up about the realities of becoming a young mother, the determination it took to build a life for her daughter, and the challenges she faced along the way. In a heartbreaking turn, she also reflects on the devastating news that her daughter's baby would not survive, offering a powerful perspective on love, loss, and resilience across generations. We'll pick up with the rest of her story in the next episode. This radio podcast focuses on giving women a voice to share their stories and how the Lord brought them through challenging situations to live above their circumstances. For more information about Voices of a Woman, Creative Encouragement Ministries, and to listen to more radio podcasts, visit us on Facebook at Creative Encouragement and on Instagram at Creative Encouragement 247. You can also find us on YouTube and Spotify. Creative Encouragement, encouraging women and connecting lives.